focused in this now moment only on the presence of spirit, only that spiritual truth which is revealed through form but not form. We move back away from the material plane into that spiritual reality that never changes. Whatever that is, it is health and prosperity and peace and wholeness. It is love and light and life. It is joy. And that is what we are made out of. And so we choose this day to acknowledge our divine inheritance, our genetics of spirituality, and to embrace fully that amazing being that we are, letting go of anything that is unlike that and focused only on the love and the light and the power of the presence of the divine in us, as us, is us now. And so with great gratitude and thanksgiving that we get to be us, yay! We simply release this into all that Spirit is, knowing that Spirit is all, as together we say, and so it is. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Welcome. Who has not been here before? Hey, Jill. Hi. Anybody else? Okay, great, great, great. So your reading last week were lessons 3 and 4. For today's class, it was lessons 3 and 4. Just for those of you who want to know, your reading this coming week will be lesson 5. Margaret, would you move that box off the picture up there?
Yes.
Just is wrong in my field of vision. Thank you. Your reading for this coming week is lesson 5. And I want to know if you have any questions about lessons 3 and 4 or what we talked about last week, because we talked about some heavy stuff last week. So do you have any questions on that? Do you have any comments? Do you have anything that you want to kind of put out into the room or process through before we move on? I want to make sure we're all on the same page, because remember, I'm asking a lot of you. Tim.
And just taking this morning, by going through that daily reading, where she talks about there is no sin, there is no, but then in the same thing, she talks about the law of sin and the law of death. And that seems to have a disconnect. If there is none, how can there be a law of it?
So would that law be an absolute law or a relative law?
Well,
exactly. We're dealing with two different worlds here. We're using language to talk about that which is difficult at best to talk about with language, although easier in this class because we get to use dualistic languaging. So dualistic languaging is easier to use to express. However, remember, we are talking about two different realities. We're talking about the world of the absolute. That is God only. Only. And we're talking about the world of the relative, where there is form and condition. So in the world of the relative, you get sick. But in the world of the absolute, there is no sickness. However, we have this thing called free will, and we are so amazingly powerful that we can turn away from the light and claim darkness. It's like a child in a developmental stage. They're toddlers. I'm not exactly sure how old they are, but they will close their eyes and say, "You can't see me." And we do the same thing. We close our eyes to the truth, and we say the truth does not exist. We close our eyes and say there is no light. We close our eyes and say I'm susceptible to conditions, to disease, to the economy, to politics, to other people, whatever. And in that world of the relative, we are amazingly able to create unhappiness. And if we find ourselves experiencing unhappiness, what we have to do is go from the relative to the absolute. And remember, I have asked you to be a little bit crazy just for a few weeks. This doesn't exist. There's a quote in the book from Mary Baker Eddy, who created Christian Science, and she said, the dream and the dreamer are both not real. That we are the dreamer, dreaming our lives, and neither one of them is real. wow, my ego wants to be real. I want to be real. I want to be Barbara Waterhouse. I want to be nonstop. You know, I want to be able to sing and dance and teach and be in my genius, and I'm not real. Because the only reality is the presence of spirit in its absolute form of love, light, life, joy. And if I take that and filter it down into the world of the relative, which is what we're here for, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying we should all go jump off a bridge. There's nothing wrong with that. But when I filter that through, I change it, I constrict it, I condense it. And so when we are most clearly aware of the absolute presence of spirit, that condensing and constricting of spirit shows up in our lives as prosperity instead of poverty, health instead of illness, happiness instead of misery, ease instead of struggle, that kind of thing. But when we get caught up, which is what most of the people on the planet are, that this is the only reality, this world, the physical form is all that's real, that we live, we struggle, we die, that's it. Oh, come on. Anybody with half a brain has to get that there is something here. How is it, just to digress, how is it that the size of the moon and the distance between the moon and the sun is perfect for the moon to exactly block the sun during a solar eclipse? How can that be random? How can any of this be random? And so for anyone to think that the world of condition or effect is the only reality, I think you got to work really hard to limit your viewpoint that much. And so other people will say, well, it can't be random, so there's this all-powerful anthropomorphic deity who, whenever things go wrong in my life, is doing that to me, so that we can move into that world of the victim and not have to take responsibility for our participation in our life. And yet, if you're reading the book, you know more and more and more, she reaches into traditional biblical text that says, no, you're the one. You're in charge. Trust that there's something, but that something is inside of you and you're in charge of it. And when you move out on faith, when you step up in faith, when you take action through your thought, focusing on that which is eternally true, you will get that in your life. And I think I said in the first class, if you research the stories in the Bible, anybody in the story, and they're all stories, I'm not sure anybody in the Bible is real, but they're all stories, and anybody who quote-unquote does whatever God tells them to do ends up prosperous and healthy, and not only them, but their families end up in prosperity and health. And so if you look at people in the stories in the Bible as ideas, that any idea that comes from you that is an offspring from you will prosper and will be healthy. As long as you are in alignment with spiritual principle, not waiting for some outside power to say, Barbara, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's like Bill Cosby's joke of Noah. What? I'm busy, you know, that kind of thing. It's not like that, but when you're in alignment with spiritual principle and spiritual law, your life works. So the trick here is not to get caught up in the world of conditions. To be able to step back, it's very Eastern, it's very, very Hindu, to be able to step back and say this is not real. And to rise up, like Ernest Holmes said when he was quoting Aurobindo in The Life Divine, who is Hindu, that transcendence transmutes, it does not rectify. We are here to transcend, not to enjoy, not to take it to where the people starving to death in Hinduism took it to, that materiality is bad and I'm better off starving by the bank of a stream than I am to indulge in the riches and blessings of life. They only did that to justify their starvation and their poverty. Not to take it to that extreme, but to realize that as you enjoy the blessings of life, where they came from. They came from you. They came from your consciousness. If they come from a whim from someone else outside, they can be taken from a whim from someone outside. How many people married into money? It doesn't last. If you're looking for your good from someone else, it doesn't last. If you know that it comes from yourself, then it doesn't matter what happens, you recreate it. People who are very wealthy, who have generational wealth, have had wealth and lost wealth and had wealth and lost wealth and had wealth and lost wealth. Well, how do they get back to having wealth? They know it comes from inside of them. If they thought it came from that one idea, that one business, that one banking venture, and they lost wealth, they'd never have it again. But those who have that kind of wealth, if you research their lives, they were up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down until finally they got up and they stayed up. So it's coming from inside of us. And what is inside of us in this realm of the absolute? What did we talk about? Joy. What else?
Abundance.
Peace, abundance. What else?
Love.
Love, health, beauty. Those kinds of things that never change. That nobody can give you and nobody can take it away. Those are the kinds of things that we focus on. And then the other realm, and again she's using old language, evil and sin, those ideas are based on the relative. As if there's an outside power of evil. Well, that would take us out of the oneness of the absolute presence of spirit and put us into the two-ness of the world of the relative and conditions. That's the only place that you can have dualistic powers. Or sin, which would be that somehow we did something wrong or we are wrong. There's something bad in us. That is not one of the verities of spirit. You didn't hear bad, although she does use good a lot. You didn't hear that God is inherently bad. God's wrong. God needs to be punished. Enter into the devil. That's crazy thought. When you can move into this idea that there is only spirit, there's only love. There's only the perfect, balanced out picturing of our lives. There's only absolute health and wholeness in our bodies. When you can move into that idea and forget about the rest, then things change. And as we condense and constrict this amazing energy into physical form, which is what we are doing, it shows up in alignment with those ideas and beliefs that we hold that all is well. We were talking about affirmations last night in class, and one of my affirmations that I've just used for decades is all is well. All is well. All is well. I don't care what's going on. All is well. And what I'm saying is there's a blessing inside of this. Whether I see it now or not, I know it to be true. And it doesn't matter what the outpicturing is, what the conflict may be, or the obstacle may be, all is well. All is well, all is well, all is well. And when I can focus on this all is wellness, then that's what shows up in my life. And it may show up different, maybe a surprise at how it looks, but it's still well. All is well. Everything's okay, everything's fine, things are going great. I don't care what the circumstances are. So I know that was a long explanation, but we're going to move more and more into how you grapple with this idea of there is only God, or there is only God the good. You know, it sounds like one of those kids' movies, Aragon the Conqueror or whatever, God the good. You know, there's only that, as opposed to what about the human condition? And I love what she begins to say, because these really are 12 lessons that are geared to bring us along to a state of wholeness and health and clarity. So I'm delighted with that. Do we have any other questions about the reading or class last week? Jenny?
Well, what I found over the years, the most difficult belief to believe in, she has very clearly stated in Lesson 4, that belief is that you are divine. You have the divine in you. And I think, we have different books on pages, but mine is on page 40, and I find it is the believing in your own divinity that is so important.
Yes. She moves on to say that that is the way to faith.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest obstacle to faith.
Mm-hmm.
And that faith is the tool of healing. And these are primary lessons in healing. Primary lessons in Christian living. Healing. So yes, believing in your own divinity. And she ascribes it as God is all that there is, and that you are a child of God. And that, again, is very archaic language, but you know, there's something to that, in that we are created out of, as parents create that child and give them their own body, their own self, and bring that life to into form, and then the child gets to do whatever it wants to do. You know, there are some people who say, how do I make kids do? You can't. But they're doesn't matter. They are ancient spiritual beings. They get to choose their own path. And children will choose all kinds of different paths. Your ability, your gift is to love. Whether it's a child, whether it's an adult, whatever it is, and especially to love yourself. One of the things that Ernest says in the textbook is that we have to have faith in God, we have to have faith in ourselves, and we have to have faith in our fellow man, fellow person, everybody else. And so a lot of people are working on having faith in this outside power, but what she's talking about is having faith in the divinity within yourself and your ability to speak your word and have that universal divinity flow through you and manifest in form. And again, she's talking about healing. So a lot of this is about physical healing. As you speak your word for yourself or someone else and have that faith that something's happening, people's lives get healed. And this was back at the turn of the century when people were dropping over like flies for things that we wouldn't think twice about. You know, someone gets pneumonia, they're dead. Someone gets the flu, chances are very high they're going to die because we didn't have a lot of the types of medical care that we have. We didn't have a lot of the old-fashioned herbalist, medicine woman, midwife kind of health care either. We didn't have a lot of any health care. And so that was a prime time for this country to turn to God and say, hey, you know, I'm going to die, maybe I'll try God. And people found that they could actually affect changes in their body and in their lives. Yes, Sue.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm really amazed at is this type of thinking coming out of those times.
Yeah.
The arena of Christianity and the fear that surrounded the population of that time, and yet this kind of scientific, forgiving thinking came out of that. And she brings things out of the personal and into the science. Like, you're not, it's not that you did something bad and now you're being punished by somebody up in the sky or something. It's pure science. To the degree that you have faith, you will see results. And if you have half of the faith, you'll see half of the results. And it's not bad or good, it's just scientific.
Right, right, right. Ernest says we're not punished for our sins, we're punished by our sins. So we did it. And a sin is simply missing the mark, an old archer's term that was twisted to mean something bigger than that. Every time we miss the mark, we have an effect of our cause. Yes, Jill?
What were the years that she wrote this?
1900, I think. 1902, so she was writing it at 1900, yeah. And there was a whole transcendentalist movement here. You know, Emerson and the Oversoul and that idea of the unity of life and circles and all of that waking up. Gibran was hanging out around that time, writing his poetry. It was really quite an interesting time in the evolution of our country, and one that I'm glad we are not forgetting with our jumping in so quickly to technology. Although who would have known that the one mind would have been political? Any other questions or comments? Yes, Stephanie.
To me, it just makes it so easy, black and white. Failure is due to unbelief. That's the one that out of both of those, that's just like, oh, that's easy. And whenever I'm struggling, I go on the prayers ceaselessly.
Right.
So it's
Wonderful,
just,
wonderful.
Well, it's just how to do it.
Right.
I love that, easy.
So do I. I love easy, and I love that you're giving me a lot of space to speak in a way that I don't usually speak. And taking all of that with a grain of sand, you know, let's not go out into the world and start claiming evil and sin and things like that. But there is this idea that says if you are not fully focused on the presence of spirit, what are you focused on? Well, I don't have faith. Yes, you do. What do you have faith in? I have faith that I'm not gonna have enough money at the end of the month, and so it is. I have faith that all men are jerks and they'll leave me, and so it is. You know, I have faith that my body will age and die, and so it is. She goes so far as to say that we're not supposed to die, and I'm not exactly sure about that, because I like the idea of dropping this body and picking up a new one. You know, I like that idea. So is she speaking about the universal concept that there is no death, that that which we are after we leave this body continues to live? I'm not sure she was, but that's what I'll translate it to for me, because I went through that whole thing about rebirthing and we're supposed to live forever, and I don't want to. It seemed like it was just too much work to try to live forever, and I'm not into work. I love what I said on Sunday about I want to end my life used up. I want to have lived this life, I want to be happy, I want to be joyous, and I don't want to have to worry about, I have to stay home today and take care of myself because, you know, I sneezed, and I want to make sure that I'm okay. Well, you're okay no matter what. You could be okay in a hospital in a respirator, you'd still be okay. Get up and live your life. Don't let life pass you by because you're afraid. You're afraid to live it. Chris.
Even those that are in that race consciousness of poverty stricken, you know, you see a lot of the people that are in that situation, they have faith. And they have faith, and there is so much love within those countries or our country, you know, that they have their families with them. They believe in God, they believe in the Spirit, and they are happy. A lot of them, you know, they have their families.
Oh, I'm with you. They don't think they're poor. They think we're crazy.
Right.
They think we are absolutely nuts to sacrifice our families and our lives for the pursuit of the mighty dollar. Instead of get a 2-bedroom house, cram 15 people in there, and everybody love each other and have a good time and share. You know, they think we're nuts the way we live, and we say, oh, they're poverty stricken, and they're going, no, we're not. You are the poor ones. What was that joke about the, that was on Facebook about kids in Africa or something, saying that we need to somehow take up a collection or something for the poor people in America that have no time and they work all day and they don't know who their kids are, and their kids are raised by strangers, and this terrible thing that has happened to those poor people. They're standing there, you know, with their little loincloths on. And truly, much of the world thinks we're crazy. One of the reasons I like the work that David Alt does, who just landed in Cambodia today, that I like the work that he does, is that the people in Cambodia are very happy, and they had a real issue. They had a real issue of water, and they had a real issue of people taking their children and selling them into a sex slave market that was world known. You land in Cambodia, and they have this big billboard that says, if you have come to take our children, we will find you and we will put you in prison. You know, Thailand and Cambodia did that, and over a number of years they've slowed that down quite a bit, but the simple act of hand digging a well in Cambodia changed all that, but the people were basically happy to begin with. When we had a program, I think we built 16 schools in Malawi, which was the poorest country in Africa at the time. The people were joy-filled. And they were happy to have the school. They were thrilled to have the school, but they were basically happy to begin with. And they'd be making bricks out of the mud that was there with pieces of wood, making their own bricks and mortar to build the school. And all of a sudden they would stop and they would start singing and dancing and all of that stuff. So there was an inherent joy in people that we think are poor. And what we want to do is we want to get away from the idea of judging based on appearances and judge, you know, righteous judgment, if you want to start hearing my Bible quotes. And that means to judge according to spirit. And that if the joy is there, then the prosperity is there. Prosperity has nothing to do with money. Caroline.
Well, I was thinking about when you were talking about just to go back for a minute with the living forever.
Please don't be sorry.
Oh, I didn't say, did I say I was sorry?
You do.
I did not hear it. I never use that word.
Well, let's
vibrations, we don't hear it. Apparently part of me's on my
Focus,
vibration.
Caroline, come on.
No,
Okay.
Okay, so my feeling is that there are those who do live forever, and we're not on the same vibration and don't necessarily see them. And the reason I say that is Yogananda's book, I was just thinking about, when you were talking about the hard work of living forever, and how there are yogis, and in that book there is actually one that would show up, and he's lived, I don't know,
But
hundreds
he's
of
not in
years,
this plane.
but he would show up.
We all live forever outside of this plane.
But he and his group would show up, would be there,
Right.
you know, and
Right.
at times.
Right.
And so I was just thinking that we are able, all of that's possible, and all that is happening right under our noses, and we may or may not be vibrating.
If I am eternal, then I don't care what body I have at any given moment. I don't care if it's on planet Earth, I don't care if it's in some other vibrational dimension. Who knows where we're gonna go play? So I don't want to hold that as some kind of a rule marker of something to aspire to, because I just don't care. What I want to do is I want to live in this moment, this eternal be here now moment, and be in spiritual principle, which is love and peace and joy and happiness and health and prosperity, irregardless of the circumstances surrounding me. So that's my goal, if I'm going to have a goal, instead of I want to hold on to this body forever.
Well, my point wasn't the living forever, my point was the vibrating, which I obviously just did to myself. I obviously didn't vibrate with what I just said. Part of me, the larger part of me didn't even hear it. So that's what I'm talking about, is what I think Annie was is so exciting about, is the expansiveness.
Who's Annie?
Rick.
Oh. Caroline.
We're not vibrating right now.
I don't know what she was talking about, but I just wanted to give you a little heads up when she brings up this idea about living forever. You don't have to pick that up as another thing on your to-do list.
Which is so powerful.
David.
The thing that comes to mind through this conversation is that I've become so accustomed of living in a linear manner and thinking in a linear manner, and that's not really who I am. So, you know, God said, we said, let there be light, and boom, it all happened at once. All time, all space, all everything in one shot. And that's really where I live. So if I make a decision, in some ways there was the possibility of my life going this way, but then I'm jumped over to this other track, and then I'm in this. So what is infinite, and what is, my point is to get out of as I move back into thinking from my largest point of view. The linear thinking, the linear way of looking at things starts to get really sketchy.
Well, I think you're letting go of your need to control. Because I know that when we set our intention for something to happen, most people, and myself included, immediately jump into the how of it all, which is a lack of faith and a lack of trust, as if the only way this thing is going to happen is if I figure it out. And usually when I figure it out, it's got pushing, it's got struggle, it's got control. Usually my husband is not thrilled. He's going, you're pushing, you know, because a part of me thinks that that's the only way that it's going to happen. And since we have started this class, I personally have noticed a shift in this. Just by saying, this doesn't matter, this isn't real, God is all that there is, and this is what I want. I want lights, and let it go. And then Michael came over all day Friday and put these lights on. My dogs ran out of the property. Was that 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago, Jenny?
A week ago, I think.
That was a week ago today. My dogs decided that they had had enough of the boundaries of the property, and they took off. And Jenny was leaving after her class and called and said, oh my God, the dogs are, you said across the highway, they were across the street. But since then, at least once a day, they have left the property, which not only carries the entire legal liability, but my puppies, I don't want them run over. And part of me says, oh, come on, trust them. They're spiritual beings. They're street savvy. They're going to be fine. I can't do that because I am not just me, I am all of us. They are not just my dogs, they are our dogs. So I said I gotta figure out some way to keep them in. I can't crate them 24 hours a day. I can't walk them on leashes. Bliss is way past that. She's had 6 acres for 2 years. I need an invisible fence. Well, an invisible fence for a house lot is $2,200. And I thought, I need a 5-acre invisible fence. So, okay, let it go. Well, today, my 5-acre invisible fence is being finished, being installed to the extent where the other side of it, the line on the creek actually is anchored on the property on the other side of the creek so that they can swim at will with complete permission from the neighbors, which has not always been the case with our neighbors, but all I did was say that's what I wanted and let it go. You know, and I treated, moved my feet a little bit, I did a little research, put down on Craigslist, had to go to Home Depot and buy some wire and flags and stuff like that, but it just happened without me trying to say, okay, how am I gonna make this happen now? I just said, my dogs are safe, that is my daily treatment, my dogs are healthy, loved, and safe. Period, end of story. And so whatever needed to happen for that to unfold happened. In the process of putting in the invisible fence, I was hiking around the property on Saturday and I noticed that the mulch that we had delivered months ago, that the parents of the Light of Wisdom School said they were going to spread around the 400-year-old oak tree, never got spread. And so there are places that have mulch 2 and 3 feet high on it, which will kill the tree. So I had a moment of upset, and then I said, no, the tree is fine, everything is fine. And so Eric comes up to me, Eric Nordzel, last night after class and says, I got some free time this week. Do you got any projects that you want done? Yeah, I want that mulch spread around the oak tree so it doesn't kill the tree. It needs mulch so that the roots don't get damaged by the little children playing all over it. But if it's piled up this high, because that's how the big trucks dump it, then it can't breathe and it'll die. So it's got to be spread. So just boom, 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 things like that I used to have to plan out and call people. Oh my God, you said you were going to spread that mulch and you didn't come, so obviously you were bad. Lived in a world of duality. No, everything is fine. Everything is working out just fine. All is well. Don't spend your time thinking about it. You've got other things to do. You've got Sunday, you've got Monday, you've got Tuesday, you've got things to do. Everything is in divine order. All is well. And it seems like since I too have stepped back into a clarity of focus, that the only reality is the presence of spirit, that nothing else matters because nothing else is real, then the world in conditions starts to come together way better than it did when I was trying to process it through or work it out. And I don't know if you're having that experience, but that's part of this concept of how you become a person that carries that, what she would call that healing with you. To where you speak your word, all is well, you forget about it. That's a key part. Step 5 in treatment, let it go, forget about it, and then let life show up. And if there's something for you to do, go ahead and do it. But if there isn't, do something else and stop trying and struggling. It was Jenny and Jane and then Barbara.
Well, the other thing that has always challenged me was that everything in the earth plane is a symbol of something else. And what is that symbol for? And she doesn't call it a symbol. She calls it a shadow or reflection. I like the word reflection. And it seems to work. When you translate what you're looking at to something spiritual in another dimension, it makes much more sense.
Right, right. And I am going to do a metaphysical interpretation of the Bible class after this. And I do a lot of that, like what did the land and stories mean? It's very Jungian. These type of images of things, and when you can ascribe meaning to them, like if you look at your dreams and you want to get the message out of your dreams, start looking at what some of those archetypal meanings are, understanding that everything in your dream is you, and look at what the message is. But I love that too. I love that there's, yes, it's not real, and yes, it's full of meaning. You know, isn't that great? So let's take the meaning out of it so that we can move ever more into a greater level of awareness of who we are and what we're doing here. Jane?
I just want to mention, pick up on what David said. He just in passing, but he talked about linear time, and we all live in this linear time. One event follows another, and Kurt Vonnegut mentioned in the planet of the Travagamore, anyway, that when they look up to the universe, instead of seeing one star after another, they see the whole time all in one planet. It's all one thing.
Right. So the outer illusion is linear time. One thing follows another.
Yeah.
And yet the higher spiritual reality is that time does not exist. And you know you can pop in and out of time. You know you can. You know you can do what they call now a quantum jump, which is to move from one point in space and time to another point in space and time without having traveled between the two distances or used up any time.
Yes.
I mean, that's a reality. So,
It's spontaneous.
right, so the idea that we live in linear time, one thing after another, is this world of the relative, of form and condition, and you do not have to be bound by that. One of the things we do early on is learn how to bend time. Anybody can bend time. Think about a time when you were having a blast, and all of a sudden you said, "Oh my God, is it over?" It just started, and now it's over. Bend time. Think about a time when you were just really not liking it, and it was excruciating, and it was taking forever. You bent time. You made it longer. If you decide you're going somewhere, and the rational mind says there's not enough time to get there on time, let that go. Simply know that you're there on time, and you will go places in way less time than anyone would dream possible. I used to have a piece of masking tape on the clock in my car because it would distract me from my knowing that I could get across town in 3 minutes. And I can. We all can. So the idea of linear time is in the relative. The idea that there is only now and that we create our reality and our experience, and the best way to do that is to stay in the absolute truth that everything is God and it's all perfect. You're always in your perfect and right place. Everything is in harmony. There is only love, there's only light, there's only life, there's only health, there's only prosperity, there's only joy. That's it. And that's the only thing to think about as you're driving across time and across town, and you get there in 3 minutes. That's it. Barbara.
With the example you gave with the dogs and the electric fence and all that, and you said you got clear on what you wanted and then you let it go, when do you take the action versus not? Because you don't want to be pushing and efforting and like, oh, I have to do this or I should do this and it doesn't feel good. Do you just take the action when you feel inspired or called, or it just feels like a natural thing and easy?
Yeah, I take my intuitive pick.
Okay.
You know, okay, you've got a couple of hours, you really want to research electric fences and put an ad in Craigslist for someone who has experience installing electric fences. I'm getting a 5-acre electric fence installed, all systems go, for $600. Yeah, I bought the stuff, I hired somebody off Craigslist, wonderful guy, name's Josh. I'll put his business cards up on the bulletin board. He seems to do all things outdoors, and I'm going to have an electric fence. And that way I can relax, Nancy can relax, John can relax, and know that our dogs are healthy, safe, and loved. We're not yelling at them because they're trying to get the chickens or the guy on the corner, you know, they're not being yelled at or different cars honking at them. And if you ever see them in the parking lot, they are very car savage. You're not going to run over them. Somebody called me and said, I hit another car out there and it's your fault because your dog was in my way. And I didn't want to hit your dog. And I said, you weren't going to hit my dog. You can't hit my dog. My dog is not hittable. My dog is surrounded by this energy of Barbara Waterhouse that she is safe and loved and healthy, and you can't get in there. So if you chose to hit another car and you're trying to blame it on me, it's not going to fly. It's just not going to fly, so don't worry about it. Those two dogs out there are very car savage. Don't let them get in your car. They're good. But what I'm getting out of this class, because I just love this book, is let it go. Move into a state of, I know what I know. So let that be enough. I know what I know and I don't have to second guess the universe. I know what I know and it's not on my back. I know what I know and I can just relax into that knowing without worrying and micromanaging how creation takes form. I can simply allow it to show up and know that all is well.
That's a good affirmation. I know what I know and I let it go.
I know what I know and I let it go. I know it, I grow it, I name it, I claim it. I know what I know and I let it go. There's a song in there.
In 2 weeks, we want to hear it.
But one of the things that comes up in that mindset is this idea of trusting and having faith in yourself, in the divinity within you. So in Monday night class, and these two classes are fascinating the way they're dovetailing. Ernest wrote Creative Mind in 1916. Annie wrote Primary Lessons in 1900. And they follow the same kind of thing. Now, frankly, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Ernest read Primary Lessons in Healing. I know there are places where he has cut and pasted out of Wallace Wattles' The Science of Getting Rich into his books. And he always said he never made this up. He just synthesized it from a lot of different places. But it's interesting the way the two classes are dovetailing. So on Monday night, we're looking at what is God and who am I? And looking at that very deeply. What is God and who am I? Because who am I is the key. And if we have a God that doesn't like us, which is the one I had for a long, long time, that would go out of its way just to mess with me, clean language, internet, go out of its way just to mess with me, then I'm going to create that in my life. And if I can move into a place where even if you want to use the languaging that God is all there is and I am a child of God, I am made out of the divine essence of God, I have a spiritual birthright from all that is. It is mine. I have inherited it. It is mine now. If I can move into that frame of mind, I can begin to trust that when I call forth things, they show up. If I am a princess in a castle, and I am sitting on my little princess throne, and I call forth my servants to bring forth lunch, whatever. I have my little princess friends over, come, bring forth lunch. I'm not going to doubt for a minute that lunch is going to come. I'm not going to question that because I know I am the princess. Now, if I'm not the princess, if I'm a little waif outside of the palace walls, struggling to survive, and I say, bring forth lunch, that's not going to happen. But if I can move into this idea that says, I am spirit in form as me. As me. We are not trying to be aware of our oneness with spirit. We are not trying to unify us and spirit. We are aware of our oneness of spirit. Our oneness as spirit. And that's a whole different world. So the more that we can have self-worth inside of ourselves and trust that when we speak our words, stuff happens. When we speak our word, things happen, so that the more we see things happen, the more faith we have in things happening. That's one reason I love to have testimonials on Sunday and sharing in class, because we hear this from other people. Somebody came into class just a couple of weeks ago, $160,000 bill from the $160,000 bill from the IRS. Don't worry, this is a lie. This is not true. It has no power. It has no presence in your life. There's nothing to it. And sure enough, inside of a week, it was completely gone. The more that we hear about stories like that, the more that we can say, oh my gosh, my credit card company charged me an extra $20. What am I going to do? It doesn't have any presence in your life. It doesn't have any power in your life. You speak your word and it's gone. Oh yeah, that other person spoke their word and it was gone. Now they got a CPA and they talked to the IRS and they did the stuff they needed to do, but it was gone. And it was gone in a matter of days. It was gone. So as we get those experiences, we develop what is called faith. And I don't mean airy-fairy faith. I don't mean, dear God, please help me. I'm about to go under here and all is lost. if you're not too busy, and I know I've been screwing up for the past 10 years, but please, God, not that kind of faith. That kind of faith that says, I know I've spoken my word and things have happened. I know other people have spoken their word and things have happened. And remember, word, logos, thought. I've set my intention. I've held that energy clear and true. And things have happened. There's absolutely no reason to think it's not going to happen now. Just because I think it's bigger, just because it's got more zeros on the end, just because it's from a specialist instead of a general practitioner, just because it's a new car instead of an old clunker, there's no reason to believe that that same power doesn't work. And so you develop faith. And the more you develop faith, the more you demonstrate, the more you demonstrate, the more you develop faith, and the better and better your life gets. Yes, Chris?
I feel extremely empowered at this point in my life. I grew up in a faith, religion that was penance and, you know, guilt and all of those things, but you were praying constantly, and you were on your knees, and you were begging basically for things in your life and to change, and I'm a sinner and shame. And that's what I grew up with, and that was ingrained in me. But now I feel so empowered because I know that I have the right and I deserve to have that faith. And not only knowing that things will show up in my life, but my life is happy and joyous.
Right. Right. Congratulations. And so what we want to do is we want to continue to rise up in consciousness, rise up in vibration, rise up into that spiritual reality that I believe supersedes and transcends anything that we can experience with our senses. Not to turn away from the world that we live in, because I think that this world is a gift and that we are meant to enjoy it, but not to bow down to the experiences in our lives. That's where the thing comes up where it says you cannot worship two masters. You cannot have two masters. A house divided in itself will fall. That you cannot worship God and mammon, which is the spiritual reality and the reality of form. You can live it, you can eat it, you know, you can enjoy it, you can be grateful that the manna is coming down from the sky every day, whatever that was. You can appreciate it, you can count your blessings, and you can grow that, but you don't want to worship it. You don't want to allow yourself to be less than the conditions that you yourself have created. You know, it's amazing. We create it, we look at it, and then we bow down to it, not realizing that we created it. And I think the way that we do it the most is with our problems. We create our big problems, and then we say that problem is bigger than me, and we bow down to the big problem, and then we pray to some outside God to help us from our problem that we created. It's a crazy kind of a dynamic that a lot of people live in, and I dare say we dabble in it. We create our problem, and then we think our problem is bigger than us, not realizing that the Creator is always bigger than its creation. So whatever you have in your life, you created it. It is your creation, which means you're bigger than it. Which is why I like that Malcolm in the Middle song. You're not the boss of me. Whatever that problem is, bank account, you're not the boss of me. IRS, you're not the boss of me. Time, you're not the boss of me. Physical energy, you're not the boss of me. Emotional state, you're not the boss of me. I am the boss of you. I am the boss of you. Because you are a reflection of me. And the best thing I can ever do is to stop struggling, stop trying, remember who I am, and rise up.
Transcend.
How do we do that?
Transcend.
We do that by developing this thing called faith, where we can just say what it is we want and let it go. And we're not going, okay, where's the fence? Where's the mulch? Where's the lights? Come on, come on, come on, come on. Don't you know I'm on a time schedule here? No. Go do something else. If you are anxious about something, go and do something else. Go have some fun. Go watch a movie. There's a bunch of cool movies out right now.
Yes.
Go watch a movie. Go take a walk. It's going to hit 60 degrees this afternoon. Go for a hike. Go do something other than worry about your problems. State your word, set the law in motion, and then don't screw it up. Leave it alone. It's like, has anybody ever made a souffle? You pull it out and you stir it up and you jiggle it, you stick a pin in it to see if it's done, you've ruined it. You put it in the oven, you trust that what you did was enough, and you let it go. You let it manifest, you let it rise, you let it do its thing, and you go do something else. You don't have to sit there and watch it. You can set a timer. On our ovens, they're great. You set a time bake and it even turns itself off. You can leave. And you come back and the thing is done and everything's all cooled off and nothing's touched it and it's perfect and it's beautiful. It's fantastic. You don't have to micromanage the creation of the universe. All you have to do is trust enough in yourself that you are divine, and when you speak your word, which comes from the thought, which comes from the belief, which comes from an experience of faith, when it finally comes out your mouth, it's been distilled in clarity and consciousness. You speak your word and it manifests. That's all you have to do. And then if you get something, well, you know, I'm just feeling like I need to put an ad in Craigslist just to see what happens. Oh? You put in electric fences? You have references I can call who have your fences working great? You're in your 20s and you can scramble up hills and hack through brambles and do all that stuff? That's fantastic. Because I took action when I was intuitive, not when I was afraid, and I let it go. Just let it go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll share a quick story. Last week, I asked Sherry to do a spiritual mind treatment for me on a specific tooth that was giving me some issues. And so that I felt more peace of mind. And then about a week later, I still was feeling a little discomfort. And my intuitive hit was to call my dentist to see her for a second time. And normally I'm very fearful of the dentist, but I felt good. I felt courageous, and I was very adult.
God is in the dentist.
I love her, she's wonderful, but anyway. And so psychologically I felt better. They did some filing, did some stuff, so I could tell, I just had this knowing that things were better, things had shifted. And then I saw this other woman who recommended coconut oil to rinse twice a day for 2 weeks. And so now it's 2 weeks after Sherry's treatment and no pain.
Yay, Sherry! Sherry, have you been worried about that? Have you been coming up with plans of what things she can do in the world of the relative to fix it? No, you spoke your word, and you have years and years and years of faith, knowing that when you do that, it happens. That you've taken her problem in the relative of the tooth, you've brought it up into the world of the absolute, which is that God is all that there is, and then the world of the relative changes because, yes, we are here in physical form. We are bringing energy in, we are coalescing it, we are constricting it, we are focusing it, and that's our experience in time and space. So whatever it is that you're creating in time and space, raise up. God is all there is. Spirit is all that there is. Health, love, peace, joy, light, happiness, prosperity. That's it. That is the only thing you get to think about. And then everything else that you spent hours and hours and hours thinking about falls into place. And if there is anything that is yours to do, it'll be right there. You don't have to go looking for it. It's right there. Oh, man, I need to do this. I need to check prices on this. I need to hire somebody. Okay. Oh, I need to put my dogs in. Where are they? I gotta go get them, bring them back. You know, I do what is mine to do, what I get intuitively, but I don't do it out of feeling like I have to micromanage it. The more and more I can let go, the more and more my life falls into place. And who knew I was the problem? That I was the one that was standing in the way of the manifestation of my good. So our only job is to look at this. This is not real. This doesn't own me. It doesn't rule me. I will not bow down to it. I will rise up in consciousness to knowing the truth of the presence of Spirit right here and right now in me and in everyone else. Ernest said, have faith in God. Have faith in yourself. And have faith in your fellow man. So see the presence of Spirit everywhere. See it in you. Know it in you. When you speak, you command the divine power of creation, and then see that presence of Spirit in everyone. And as you see that presence of spirit in everyone and know who you are and know that spirit is all that there is, people will begin to experience change. And although we don't usually use the word healing, people will begin to heal around you. They will come around you. That's what happens with the really clear gurus and things like that. You just go be in their presence and you can heal. You can go be in the presence of John of God and never have him work on you. Just go there and you can experience a healing and you go home and you're totally changed. When you're that clear, then everything changes. And the people in your world change with you. Either that or they run like hell. And if they leave, just wish them well, send them on their way, and know that all is well because you're doing what you need to do. You're going where you need to go. And they will either come with you or they will run away. Either way, the people in your world will heal. There's absolutely no reason to have suffering, to struggle, to feel poor. There is no reason to be ill. There is no reason to experience limitation or failure or frustration. There is no reason for that. The only way we can have that is if we filter this amazing energy into form through us, through a belief system that says, I believe that evil is real. I believe that there are people on the world, Barbara, there are people on the world that are just bad. They are killing people and they are causing great harm and there are atrocities happening and there is just bad. And if you want to believe that, you will take all of this amazing energy and you will create that in your life. Whatever it is that you're experiencing, you are the doorway. You have let it in. So if you don't like what you're letting in your life, you have to stop opening up that door. And the reason that people don't feel that they are divine, that they are all-powerful, all-knowing, all-present, all-loving, all joy, all prosperity, all health, all wholeness, all balance, is because they have a belief that that is not real. They have a belief that there's a power outside of that, and once that belief gets its foot in your door, tempting that it may be, which is one of the problems of watching the news, you see pictures of it. Don't do that. For God's sakes, don't go on YouTube and watch videos of atrocities. Don't do that. Don't let that in your door. At least give me the rest of the 8-week class before you do that. She says, turn away from all of that. Don't talk about it. Don't watch it. Don't listen to it. Don't go there, because if you go there, you're going to bring it back in your life with you. Speak only of that which is true. That was Paul. Speak on these things. Speak only on that which is true. Focus only on that which is true. True with a capital T. And watch it show up in your life. Jill.
I'm finding it to be a challenge because when I think of myself as powerful, I go into my controlling part. You know,
Right.
like I'm in control.
Right.
And that's hard. Well, I don't want to say it's hard. It's a challenge for me to reconcile that feeling powerful and in control with letting go.
And I love you very much. And that's pure laziness. You have to exert dominion over your thought. You have to. You have to. And I'll give you the fact that you've been in Pennsylvania and you've been away from me for 20 some odd years. But this idea that we are not able to do that we have not yet opened up to the divine within us, is just because we have not forced ourselves to think on that and to embrace that and to speak our word no matter what is happening and watch it show up and acknowledge it when it shows up and build that faith within ourselves. We have not forced ourselves to do that. We have given into race consciousness, which says I have to control it, I have to make it happen, things are hard, things are a struggle, things are a challenge. They're not. The only thing that's real is God. The only thing that's real in your world is God as you. That's it. Just let all that other stuff go. Look in the mirror and see God. And watch how everything changes. And I love you very much. I'm so glad you moved here. We're going to take a break. Yeah, nice. Laura Earp have put together. It's a holistic health day here at the center. There's all kinds of ads out in the general public, and the 30 or so practitioners are donating everything. So it's from 11 to 3. You can come in and get acupuncture, reflexology, acupressure, massages of all kinds, essential oil treatments, what?
Spiritual mind treatment.
Spiritual mind treatment. Simultaneously in the other room there will be 4 classes going on, 1 hour each. There's a prosperity class, a 4 agreements class. There's Laura Bond from she's the director of the drama department. She's the chair of the drama department at UNCA. She has developed this amazing workshop that goes out and teaches you how to create emotions, because when you're acting, you need to be able to be in touch with your emotions, and they have to be real. They're not phony. So she teaches you how to link with your emotions and let them out. It's fantastic. And what's the other workshop?
Dance? The
Dance. There's a dance. All you dancers, what time is the dance one?
11.
First one.
The first one, dance at 11, and then you're going to do prosperity and 4 agreements, and then you're going to work with Laura and do emotions.
I think
All
it's dance, the 4 agreements, prosperity, and then
great, whatever. So at the same time, the sanctuary in this room are going to be filled with practitioners working on people, and you can just go and get done. How great is that? It's like, do me. So that's going to be a wonderful day, and if you have people that you know that you would want to bring and experience that, I was trying to talk my son into bringing my grandchildren. You know, let them get their feet rubbed, let them get little acupressure points pushed. So we'll
Does
see.
the animal communicator need the animals there?
I've got 2.
Oh, yeah.
I have 2 animals they can communicate with. Stay on this property. Terry.
What is the animal communicator? What is
I have given you everything I know about Saturday.
Barbara, I have a friend who uses an animal communicator over the phone, so
Cool.
I doubt you need your.
So you don't need your animal here. But maybe you could bring your animal. You know, if you got an animal, bring it. Please don't bring dogs into the sanctuary.
not in the sanctuary.
Not in the sanctuary.
Does she talk about
So, good. Okay, now I really am going to look at my notes for today. So the review for Jill of where we've come in a nutshell in these last couple of weeks is, since God the good is all, evil has no real place or power. And I've asked you to indulge me in languaging over this class. There is no essence of evil if good is all that there is. And if God is good, and God is all that there is, then good is all that there is, and evil doesn't exist. It has no presence, it has no power in our lives, which means good is all that there is. Only good can come from this. How many times have I said that over the last 20 years? Only good can come from this because only good is here. Edwene said if something happens and you keep claiming the good in it, the blessing in it, that it will come out. That there has to be a blessing in this. There has to be good in this. Since man, remember this was written in 1900, it's not a gender bias, it's just a term of language. Since man, God's child, is divine, the carnal self, and that doesn't mean just your base sexual desires, it means all things physical. The physical plane has no real place or power. That means your personality, your preferences, your ego, that which you think should be, that which gets upset inside of you. It doesn't have any real place or power. Let it go. It's not that your ego isn't valid or that it's bad, it's just that it's not real.
It's temporary.
Yeah, it's temporary. If the only thing that's real is God and God is good, then good is all that's real. And if you have any other experience, it's not real. Since God's world is spiritual substance, materiality has no real place or power. And again, that doesn't mean that you don't get to enjoy it. That doesn't mean that you don't get to experience it, but it's effervescence. I mean, think about this fantastic meal you ate. You spent a couple $100 on it. It was great. It's gone. The money's gone, the food's gone, the experience is gone. It's changing. And think about some awful time you had. They left you, you were fired, everything fell apart. It's gone. And that's what she's saying, is that it has no real place. Because if it had a real place, it would still be here. And it has no real power, because it's gone. The only real place or power is the presence of Spirit, which is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. It's always here, it's all-knowing, it's all-powerful. It's always right here, it never changes. That's the real power. That's the real presence. And so that's what you want to focus on. Disease has no presence, no power in my life. That's what we learned last week. I love that. Poverty has no power and no presence in my life. It cannot exist in the life of God, and that's what I am. So when we master the skillful art of spiritual schizophrenia, and we ignore that which we see, to see that which we choose to see, then we have stepped into that spiritual realm, which is the point of all creation. And the creation of health is what is called healing. Although health never didn't exist. All we're doing is focusing on that which is. It's like our eyes are closed, we are affirming the darkness, and then someone says, there's no darkness, there's only light. Open up your eyes. And you see a world that you never knew existed. It's amazing. Because you can transcend the world of effects and rise up to the world of spirit and bring back into your experience through the natural, logical, creative process that which you have embraced in the realm of spirit. So your manifestations are filled with love, prosperity, joy, happiness. They're win-wins for everybody. You've left the competitive world and moved into that world where all is one. So if I win, you have to win, and everybody's happy about it, and there's plenty of money, and everybody feels great, and life is the way that it is supposed to be. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You feel up to speed, Jill?
Yes.
Good.
Rolling.
I love you. I love that you moved here. She and I were together back in Miami, and what was that? That was in the 80s. That was a long time ago. I'm not reading all the Bible quotes.
That'll be for the next one.
There's an interesting concept in your reading that medicine does not heal. That it is the spiritual idea behind the medicine that heals, which is completely in alignment with the whole idea of placebos. All you have to do is have, I think, a little bit better result in your new medical trials than a placebo to have it confirmed by the drug companies that it's a valid drug, although the placebos don't carry all of the side effects like the drug does. So it is not the medicine, it is the idea that there is an answer, that there is a healing, that this is going to help. That kind of thing is what heals, not the medicine. And then they talk about the will of God. Interesting idea. The will of God. Is this God's will for you? What is the will of God?
Whatever I say.
No. No, the will of God can only be God. If you say, I say the light is dark, you don't make the light dark. If you say, I say love is hate, you don't make love hate. So that's why I challenged you on this. And that's why in this class, deep breath, Jennifer, we are saying that darkness and hate and limitation and struggle do not exist. And we're going to bring up the next question in a few minutes. So, the will of God can only be that which God is. So, God can only be aware of itself since there's nothing outside of God. So, the will of God would have to be life and love and beauty and prosperity and health and balance and wholeness, because that's all that God can be. God cannot be an eternally expanding principle and then have an awareness of or a desire or intention or creation of constriction. It can't do it. It's not in its nature. God cannot go from oneness to saying, okay, I'm going to be two now. It can't do it. It cannot be outside of its nature, and its nature is wholeness and oneness and energy and vibration and creation and all of that stuff, probably way more than we can even imagine, whatever God is. So when you think about, is this God's will? You know, don't even go there. There's a quote from Blazing Saddles that I will. So when you go to, is this God's will, then you have to say, well, God's will for me can only be to be happy, can only be prosperous, can only be joy. God's will for me can only be health. It can only be success. It can only be wholeness and balance. So if you're going to use this idea that there is a will of the divine, the will of the divine can only be the divine. And the divine in form as you. And because people have had this phrase used against them and have internalized it, and now we change the languaging and say, well, maybe it's not my perfect and right time, maybe I'm not ready, maybe things are not all set for it, and all we've done is translated that I don't get what I want because there's some outside power, let's call it the will of God, has decided it's not my life now, and we've translated it into metaphysical languaging. Chris?
Well, I look at it as, if you drop that word will, it's like people say, well, you have so much willpower to lose weight. And if you just drop that word will, is I have the power to lose weight.
Or you have the power to be healthy and balanced and feel good because there's nothing lost in the universe.
Right.
Yeah, so if you lose weight, you might find it.
I was just using that as an example where people say, you know, you have the willpower to do this or the willpower to do that, and if you just drop the word will, then you have the power.
Right.
And
right.
it's almost to me like it's a wish.
Right. So be mindful if you use this concept of the will of God, and if you translate it into metaphysically appropriate languaging, it's still the same thing, that you're not setting yourself up to somehow have something that is not in alignment with all that Spirit is, because then that doesn't exist. Stephanie.
The text says in the first chapter, God works through me to will and to do whatever ought to be done by me.
Right.
That's
Right. Good, good, good. Moving on, moving on. I love this class, and I'm working on a couple of lessons here, so I'm wanting to get into some of the good stuff that's coming up. So she's going to talk about this idea of a prayer of faith. And she says, in James it says, the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. The prayer of faith shall save the sick. This is about healing. And the Lord, the law, the presence of Spirit shall raise that person up out of a condition into the truth. And so what is this prayer of faith? And the way she describes it is to know God, to trust the goodness of God, to believe in the mercy and indulgence of God. I love this. It's an indulgent God. It's an indulgent God. Indulge me. That God gives good always and forever. And to be consistent in this idea, and that is your prayer of faith. And if you are consistent in these ideas, it will save the sick, and that energy will raise that person up. It will also save you and raise you up. I used to have a bumper sticker that said, salvation is an inside job. So then we move into this idea of knowledge and good judgment. And she talks about the recurring concept here of how can you say that there is no evil, there is no sin, there is no illness, there is no poverty. How does that work? And I love that she starts a logical sequence of events. I love people who do lessons. That's why I love the original textbook. It's set up with lessons. It's a introduction. It's the lesson. It's usually got some pictures with it. And then there's a recapitulation, not a conclusion. This is the language of the day. A recapitulation so that everything is set up in a logical sequential order. So she starts out by saying that ignorance is the cause of all evil manifestations, and the grossest ignorance of all is to ascribe all evil manifestations their origin to God. Mm-hmm. That ignorance is the cause of all what she's calling evil, which is the experience of a lack of the totality of the divine. Just because you say it's dark doesn't mean that the light is gone, but you can live in darkness. She says that's ignorance. And then to ascribe the origins of darkness to God, she said, is the grossest ignorance of all. And that brings up this question of, if God is all that there is, then darkness and sickness and struggle and limitation and poverty have to be of God, doesn't it? She speaks to this. She says, wisdom is the principal, oh, there's a proverb, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get the understanding. So what you want to do is, she says, you want to start to be wise, you want to start to learn, and you want to understand the way this thing works. True understanding comes from within. And she talks about two different prophets. And she says one of the prophets is not as evolved as the other. And this is a prophet in the Old Testament, it's Isaiah. And she says that this prophet sees evil as much a reality as good. And that prophet was not in the full truth. That prophet was actually in a more childhood development of the spiritual path. And Isaiah says, I form the lights, talking about God, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. And a lot of people have used that to say God creates evil, God creates darkness, God creates all of this other stuff. And she's saying that there is not the level of truth in evil that there is in good. There just isn't. We do not have endless evil. We do not have eternal evil. We do not have a bad, conflicting power that is in conflict with the presence of the divine. That's the way we can see it, and we can make an argument inside of our head that says God created everything. That means God must have created evil and limitation and sickness and sin and suffering and all of that stuff. And doesn't that kind of make sense? And she's saying you have to grow out of that if you really want to experience this level of healing. She said that you've got to move into a mature spiritual advancement. And she goes to a quote from John. This then is the message which we have heard of him, and declare unto you that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. So that's your two different stories. And different people are at different levels. And I'm not going to say that one is worse or bad than the other, but I do tell you that as you grow and evolve, you move into this state that says either God is all that there is or God isn't. And either their love is all that there is or love isn't. Either life is all that there is or life isn't. Either abundance is all that there is or abundance isn't. Either health is all that there is, or health isn't. Either joy is all that there is, or joy isn't. And we don't try to modify and blend those, because a part of us wants to be able to wrap our heads around the idea that there is a spiritual reality to some kind of limitation and struggle and darkness. And what she is saying, and I've said this from the very beginning, and it's different than all my other classes, is you've got to be able to leave that behind and move fully into this idea that no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the conditions in life, that only the presence of spirit in all of its infinite, absolute totality is real. Only prosperity is real, even if you are in the middle of bankruptcy. Only love is real, even if someone is screaming at you or even shooting at you. Only life is real, even if someone you love just died in their physical form. You've got to be able to let loose of all of those conditions and move 100% into that experience that the presence of spirit, that health, happiness, wealth, joy, peace, love, light, prosperity, whatever else you want to say, those eternal verities of spirit are all that there is. And no matter how much it may work in my head to start to make sense, it's a, what did she call it? She called it a convenient lie. Even when a convenient lie begins to show up in our world, which will take us off of our clarity, because it just seems to make so much sense and everybody else agrees, and it looks that way. And so can't we just modify principle a little bit to include a little bit of poverty, a little bit of limitation, just a little bit of struggle? And she says that when that convenient lie, when that temptation comes into our consciousness, it can derail our whole way of being. And that is the time that we must find it within inside of ourselves. That's where the discipline comes in to say, if I was going to be biblical, get thee behind me, Satan. I will not look at you. I will turn away from the condition. I will keep my thought fixed on the presence of spirit in me, as me, is me now. No other reality, no other story, no other situation, no other fact will sway me. So I wanted to bring that up and just see how you are all with that, because I know it's an ongoing conversation, because it asks a lot of you to say the medicine doesn't heal. We're having a holistic health day. Isn't that great? None of those modalities heal. They're great, but the spiritual essence behind them does. So be in alignment with that. Wow, yes. Do me, because God is doing God, and this feels great. But if you say, oh, I'm not going to be okay because I missed my appointment, then you have bowed down to the world of condition and effect. So what are you thinking of? What's going on, Sue?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big one.
It's a big one, it is.
It's a really big one. Through the years, there would always be someone who would bring up the holidays, who would bring up that. And then that question, if it is all of God, then it's all of God. So for me, I can't serve two masters. I mean, this goes to serving two masters.
Exactly.
So I have to put a small r on a reality that seems to be real when I'm feeling really ill. That gets a small, I can't discount it, because I was brought up in a home where things that were evident, like people drinking, were told, no, nobody's drinking. So there's that lie. I mean, is this that lie coming out again, to hit me in the face? No, so I put a small r on it. And I know that it's not real, even though it appears to be real in the moment. But I will not serve two masters. So this is where that faith comes in, that big trust. I might not see it clearly, but I will go to the trust and the faith and trust what we used to call the creative process. Trust that and let it all just, work out the way it works out.
Right.
But
Right.
I won't give the power, even though it appears to be real, I will not give it that power.
That's why Ernest says if you have to stay up all night to get an understanding of what you want to understand, he says that to practitioners. He says, if you agree to treat for someone and it takes you all night long to be able to believe that, then you don't get to go to sleep. You have to stay there. So if you sit up there and your physical body is experiencing in the world of condition and effect illness, then it is your job to wrap your head around the idea that there is a health that is within me, whether I can feel it or not, whether it seems evident or not. There is a health and a wholeness within me now that cannot be denied. And I don't have to have it read on a thermometer or demonstrate through my body for me to believe that. I believe it even though the conditions are such. And that's where your spiritual discipline comes in. That I will believe the truth of spirit no matter what is happening, no matter what I'm feeling, no matter what is the condition, and I will call it good and claim it good, and I will stay with that until the good comes from it.
And here's the other piece. Every time I'm dealing with a challenge like that, especially physical illness, which I do not like at all, there's an opportunity in there to renew my faith, to make my faith stronger.
Right.
If I get through that, even though, no, you're telling me this isn't real, look what's happening to my body, look what's happening to my emotional state. Stay with it, it's an opportunity. Because if I could come out on the other side of that and say, I stood firm. Yes, I bent, yes, I felt, yes, I cried, yes, I this, yes, I that. But in the end, I came out of it, and I'm stronger in that, and my faith is stronger in that.
Right. And don't be in judgment on the fact you got sick. It's not real, just don't care. Take care of your body, but don't get all caught up in it. Oh, I'm a terrible metaphysician, I got sick. I have to know the presence of... Don't go there. My body is doing what it is doing. I don't care why it's doing it. That's old news. I am creating my future experience by knowing the presence of spirit in every cell, in every organ, and in every tissue. Because when we get into judgment, we just exacerbate the thing. And what people tell us is that when the body gets sick, it goes through, we truly call it a healing crisis. Sometimes it will let go of toxins that are so buried in it that they were irritating systems and trying to create a little disease in there, and instead you come down with something and you blow it all out or throw it all up or come out through your skin, whatever it is, your body gets rid of it because you were made to heal. And so you stay clear. I don't care what's going on. Nothing's going on but God and good, and I call it that. And I'm going to drink my chicken soup and take my Theraflu and watch TV and know that all is well and that I'm in perfect health, and then you come out of it. But don't even give it the energy of thinking there's something wrong with being sick. It's not real. It's like looking at a TV show and watching someone sick and going, you terrible person. No.
Yeah, so there is purpose too, but in the end it is all God.
It is all God. It's either all God or we're all just blowing smoke. David.
It just reminds me of this wonderful quote in the Bible where someone brought a sick child to Jesus and said, who sinned? The child was the parents? And Jesus said, so that the power of God might be known.
Yes, the child is only sick so that I can heal that child in public.
You can see,
Yes.
you demonstrate this.
Yes, yes. Jane.
I saw recently a mother and a child, and the child was really very sick, just mentally ill and developmentally.
That child was perfect.
That's
Jane.
right, but
Yes.
see, the mother,
None of your business.
Yeah, and the kid was causing some disturbance.
None of your business.
No, that's the thing. Now, here's what my point. My point is that when I when it moved out of my experience, the thing of it is that the child and the mother were fine, and it was me.
Without you, Ernest calls that malpractice. You look at someone and say, you're sick and you're screwed up. Your only job in life is to see the presence of God in yourself and in everyone else. That is all your job is. So who has questions about this idea of is sickness, limitation, poverty, darkness, evil, sin, whatever that, is that part of God or not?
Wow.
Carolani and then Jennifer.
Well, I was just thinking about
I don't want to
But
go
she
with
just
Jane. I
said-
really want a question on this.
this is what she just said And I've heard Abraham say, you look at somebody, you feel in alignment. You look at somebody and you say, they're not in alignment, and immediately you're out of alignment. So we cannot even afford to ever see.
Right, but what does that have to do with the question?
Is that what is being said here?
No, what is the, what
cannot
you have
see it.
questions on the idea that inside of spirit is darkness, poverty, limitation, sickness, evil, sin. And I know that those are real questions, and I want to take the time to address them. So Jennifer.
Okay. My understanding of 3D reality, which you're calling the relative, is that correct? Is based on duality. Night, day, hot, cold, the push and pull, and it couldn't exist without those things being here.
Right.
So Hitler, when he chose to incarnate and play that role, he was a divine being, and he was really being an awesome divine being to be able to play the role of the bad guy, because that creates the push and pull. So my thinking is, he was not bad, he was not influenced by a source of evil, he came here to play a role so that this reality could exist. So those actions were divinely inspired and were from the absolute, so that we had this playground to
That's
come and play
great.
in.
It's all God, even Hitler. It's all God, and there's good in it, whether we can see it or not. You're seeing good in it. I think that makes you very close to one of the ascended masters. I mean, I really do. For us to be able to look at the Holocaust and even open to the possibility that that is God manifesting in perfection, that's big. That's big, and that's our job, to be able to be in the relative and rise up into the absolute, to look at the world of conditions and see the presence of spirit. And to know that whatever God is, in the words of Annie, God is good, God is health, God is love, God is prosperity, God is wholeness, God is joy, that is God, that those things never change. That there is a push for goodness in your life, that God is for you. There was a quote I had. I don't know where it is. It was great.
It's there.
Yeah. Oh, God is with you and good is for you. I mean, think about that. If God is all that there is, God is with me, is with me. And since God is good, good is for me. How could anything go wrong? I mean, it's just a really sweet way to wrap your head around it. And it doesn't matter if your body's sick, it doesn't matter if your bank account is doing a dip, it doesn't matter what the stock market's doing, or politics, or the price of gold, or the air conditioning, or the weather, or your car when you had it perfectly in park and went off on a runaway experience. This doesn't matter. That only good is here because only God is here. And when we see that, even with, well, what about Hitler? And you go, no, there's a divine presence and a celestial dance that we are all doing for the greater unfoldment of love in this universe and beyond. And Hitler had to be a part of it the same way that the flowers coming out in spring are a part of it. That's big. And I know that that is asking a lot of you, because the world of effects really wants to hook you. Hook you. Comes up to you. News story. You don't watch the news? Something on Facebook. Let me get you. How about something outside? Let me get you. Let me get you. And you go, no, I'm not hookable. I am a presence of the divine. If you want to use that languaging, I am a child of God. I got no hooks. I got everything handled. I have the divine bank account. I have all of the karma set up. I've got all of the servants and that which will serve me. Whatever I want, I simply speak it out into the room, and all kinds of things go into work to bring it to me, whether it's clothing or food or trips or whatever. That's who I am. I'm not hookable. It's a wonderful way to live. Jennifer and then David.
Well, so going back to the will of God statement, when I said that it is what I say it is, could you not look at Hitler's actions and say that that in a way was the will of God, because that's how we get to exist here, through that push and pull?
If you look at Hitler's actions as love, to bring forth a greater level of love in humanity, and God is love, then that is the will of God. And everything is love, every atrocity, every famine, every act of violence. If you look at it clearly, it is love. It is all love, because love is all there is. It's not just a song we sing on Sunday. Love is all there is. John wrote this great poem, I live in a world created by love. Love is all there is. Before me, behind me, around me, inside me, love is all there is. I'm filled overflowing and clear in my knowing that love is all there is. Or love is what I am. I live in a world created by love. Love is what I am, not love is all there is. But love is what I am. So when we can see clearly that presence of the divine, things change. We are not dominated by the world of effects. Our bank accounts don't rule us. Whatever we think we have in our body doesn't rule us. People don't rule us. Circumstances don't rule us. We rule them, but we rule them from a consciousness that says all is well. God is all that there is. There is light and love and peace and power and beauty and joy. That's all there is. And then that can only be what is in our lives. David. Did you just have your hand?
I did, and I'm still thinking about what Jennifer said. I mean, so I'm feeling the challenge, because there's a part of me that just goes to, okay, Hitler's actions or my own ungenerative activity is God inspired.
It has to be. We do not sacrifice principle even on special occasions. It has to be. Look at Jane. There was a child and a mother having a bad experience, and then Jane pulled her judgment away from it, and they were fine. Is it not our judgment that we put on circumstances that actually bring that experience into our lives that we could call evil? It's us.
Yeah, I get that part. The part that I'm poking at is I make a choice out of ignorance to not bring love, to not bring actions that bring more life. Now, the only thing that can come from God is more love, more life, more of what God truly is. And by my own divine inheritance of free will, I can ignore that and do something else.
But that doesn't make it truth with a capital T.
And right.
Yes,
And
that's the difference.
Yes, that's what so there is a difference in there.
This is old-time mental science, old-time metaphysics. Truth with a capital T is the only business that you have. The presence of God in you, as you, is the only reality, and nothing else matters. And that takes some mental discipline. Were you done?
Never.
This is real stuff, ladies. Listen to this. And I'm asking you to really change the way you see things, but I guarantee you that if you can make that shift, the power that you have access to will blow you away. Barbara.
So a few things on this whole topic of Hitler. So if I'm understanding correctly what David was saying, what you're saying is that Hitler, and from my learning of Abraham's teachings, Hitler was acting from the place of disconnection with his alignment with spirit, with who he truly was with a capital T. He was acting out the small t in his choices.
And what I'm saying, and I love you very much, Hitler isn't real. None of that is real. When you focus on it, when you breathe life into it, when you get all kinds of judgments on it and want to explain it, then that makes it real to you. But none of this is real. That's the jump. When you live in a world that says this is real, you are bound to this world. You serve this world. It has power over you, even though you're the one that created it and gave it power. None of that is real. And the question that I was asking was, how are you handling my request to not have any of this be real? None of this is real. Call me crazy. My life works. I'm getting to the point where I just have one thought and things show up in physical form. None of that was real. So you can explain it all you want. You can make up stories about it all you want. If that helps you let go of the judgment about it, great. But that's only a step to where I want you to go.
So I can get that it's not real with a capital R. I can get that this is all an illusion, and what Jen, is that your name? What Jen was saying, I totally get that, that what if we came into this incarnation, agreeing to play certain parts for whatever reason, and that because nothing that is not eternal is real. So I get that. And in the world of the physical and duality, I guess it helps me to think of, I also see the mass consciousness that, you know, it wasn't just.
And that's great, but in the world of the physical and duality, you get sick, you struggle, you suffer, you have limitations. And what I'm inviting you to do, like I said to Jackie last week, go crazy with me. Let yourself have, this is class 3, let yourself have 5 more weeks that this doesn't exist. I mean, in quantum physics, they say it doesn't exist. The dreamer and the dream, neither of them are real. We say, well, we're just dreaming it. And at a higher level, you're not even dreaming it. You're not real. The only thing that is real is the presence of spirit that happens to be with smoke and mirrors and physical form showing up as you for a brief blink in time, and then you go back into life with your personality. I don't know. But the only thing that is real is light and love and power and beauty and joy and abundance and prosperity. That's it. There was no Hitler. There was no past. You don't have a story. You don't have a past. I mean, it's so hard for people to hold on to that, to think, wrap their heads around it. I really want you to give it a go. There is no evil, there is no sin, there is no poverty, there is no limitation, there is no suffering, there is none of that. There is only the presence of spirit in form right here, right now, as you and everybody else. Sue and then Jeannie and Nina and B, and then we're going to close.
At the very beginning of the chapter, the author emphasizes the practice of what people are eating. The practice of it over and over and over again. Whether you feel it or you don't feel it, the practice of it will bring you to a certain point of understanding. So it's really, for me, without doing that, it's really difficult to go to an individual situation, especially that I've met people out of the Holocaust, and say, this is okay, and Hitler is love, and so on.
I didn't say it was okay.
No, I'm not saying that
Okay.
you did.
Okay.
But to see that as part of a greater whole without even understanding what the greater whole is. So I'm just saying that I need to do the work and the practice
Yes, you
to
do.
embrace a much larger picture rather than go to the individual atrocity and say that's okay out of context.
Right, right. We do not sacrifice principle even on special occasions.
Right.
And this is work. This is work. I wasn't putting you down when I said that's laziness. It takes a lot of work to get our heads thinking differently. And that is the work and the only work. Ginny, did you have your hand up?
No,
Nina.
Nina did.
I read a book by Asimov once that was mind-bending to me. This is not only mind-bending, but it's mind-shifting higher. And so, for me, only for me, and I can't speak for anybody but me, it's uplifting and scary at the same time.
Good.
It's kind of like being on the roller coaster.
Good. Hold on, it's a great ride. Me.
It just came to me that the only way I can understand what you were saying is if I bring my presence to right now, then Hitler was not real, whatever is next is not real, this is the only reality. And if I can stay, then, and words are so hard, in this reality of this now, everything is spirit, God, good. And it just, so my practice now that I'm getting from today, I can bring myself to this place every single time that my mind starts thinking that this room is real and that you're real and that you're cross-eyed and that, you know, that it's not real.
Exactly, and that puts you and Jen moving up to the Ascended Masters. And honestly, this is big deal spiritual growth. It is the child step that says that illusion is as real as the truth. And it takes a big jump to go to there is only truth. And the illusion is just an illusion, and it's a great illusion, and enjoy the illusion and have fun with it, but it's just an illusion because you did that. And you can do something else. You can change your reality any moment that you want, but how you change it affects what it changes into. So yes, focus on this now moment. Focus on the presence of the divine. Know that inside of you, you are divine spirit, period, end of story. And then allow your thoughts to be God thoughts. Don't have faith in God, have faith of God. Think with God thoughts, speak with God words, see with God's eyes, and watch the world that you live in. Totally transformed. And we are going to close. Do something quick.
Yeah, just thinking, something David said, and as Jane said, as far as having raised a child, especially when David said, people look and judge and say, okay, what did you do to deserve the sins of the father, yeah. The sins of the father and mother? And, Jane looking at, the child and cross out this thing. In love, you can instead look at an individual and say, what courage, what trust it took to come incarnate into that, to be the teacher and the teacher that they are, and the model that they are, that they serve.
And still you're justifying the relative.
Right, justifying the
And
relative.
I'm saying rise up. God is all that there is. God is all that there is. Doesn't matter what shape, what size, what form, what. God is all that there is. Good. Good, 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 good. Love is all that there is. Take out what you're going to give. I love this class. I love Amy Witzolitz. She rocks.
Self-abuse, I'm saying. Even though you're an illusion.
I am. I'm a great illusion. I am simply a reflection of you. That's all that I am. So look at how you've grown. And knowing that only God is real. God the good, God the prosperous, God the abundant, and that God is right here, not only with us, but in us, as us, is us now. We are created out of the abundance and the prosperity of the universe and beyond. It is our nature, it is our essence, it is the outpicturing in our life right now. I claim for each and every one of us that we always have more than enough. We have more than enough money, more than enough opportunity, more than enough ideas, more than enough time, more than enough energy, more than enough of everything that we want to have. I claim that as the truth of our being, the essence and the nature of us. And so we give our gift this day out of the fullness of us, the knowing that our lives are blessed in each and every way. And that energy goes with this gift, setting spiritual law in motion to return back to us more and more and more of that which we give away. Breathe it in. We deserve it. We accept it. Life loves to give to us. And I know that each of us comes together this day to make this Center for Spiritual Living Asheville all that it was ever meant to be. It is a place of peace, a beacon of light, a tower of strength, and a fountain of wisdom that touches the lives of all who call it home. And so it is. So it is. Hold the energy. Don't go down into the relative. Stay up here with me. Hold the energy. Don't chit-chat. Breathe it in. There is a light and a love, a presence and a power that is particularized to you. That the entire universe loves you. That all that is gives to you all that is. Of course you have more than enough. Of course you are loved. Of course you are blessed. Of course things just fall into place for you. Breathe that in. You were born out of the eternal goodness, the eternal love of Spirit itself. Breathe it in. It's your divine birthright. You've already inherited it. You are on planet Earth by divine appointment for the cosmic dance of life, enlightened into an awareness of the presence of Spirit in you, as you, is you now. So of course your life manifests abundance in every way. More than enough money in your checkbooks. More than enough opportunity in your life. more than enough energy and health and time and wholeness and fun and love and joy. That is who you are. And with great gratitude and thanksgiving for this particular group of spiritual beings, I simply let this go, knowing that our lives are blessed today and always. As together we say,
and so it is.
I love you guys.